in the Western Cape of Cape Town, South Africa. Deemed the murder capital of the nation, the question of who holds power remains shrouded in uncertainty. In Khayelitsha, an informal settlement saturated with cheap firearms, drugs, and gang activity, survival means navigating a world of danger. For many young men, this is all they've ever known. Having spent time in and out of prison, those caught up in gangs boast of carrying out armed robberies, burglaries, and carjackings.
Abanye basehararo side B side C indawo ngendawo ubona
yabo iminyaka abanye yabo so yeah that is why so you got like catch up.
Yet looming above them are the extortionists, wielding unchecked power, rumored to have infiltrated even the police ranks, casting a shadow of fear over the streets. Despite their best efforts, the police's reluctance to patrol after dark, and with certain areas deemed no-go zones, they're facing a losing battle. As the power tussle plays out, many residents have lost hope, while outsiders are warned that by entering, they are doing so at their own risk. South Africa, on the surface, is a tourist haven full of natural wonder and cultural richness. Millions of tourists come here every year for the beaches, wildlife, and breathtaking landscapes. But despite the vibrant way of life, this is a city rife with inequality, crime, and gang violence. Hundreds of informal settlements, many left over from the apartheid regime, are a prevalent feature of Cape Town's urban landscape, and few are more imposing and dangerous than Khayelitsha. Situated in the southern suburbs, with a population in the millions, this sprawling township remains a notorious battleground of lawlessness, grappling with its persistent issues. Young residents face a risk of violent death 25 times higher compared to the global average. Armed and unpredictable, thugs like Dino and his crew thrive, preying on unsuspecting victims. Site C serves as their primary base, a notorious epicenter of illicit dealings and underground operations situated in the west of the township. No target is off limit to these men as they navigate the harsh realities of their environment. Back at their base, in an undisclosed location, the men count up and divide out the money from a recent run of successful robberies.
Masifuna uphula inhloko ngoku ungazayitya uphula inhloko ngoku amakolisa amadaka.
High on drugs and alcohol, interactions between the gang are often chaotic. In their world, avoiding the clutches of law enforcement is an everyday challenge. Having spent the most time behind bars is boss Dino. An expert in carjackings, Dino perfected his skills growing up in Khayelitsha, in and out of gangs. Making it to his early 30s has been quite an achievement, considering how many of his peers have died along the way.
I think so. I was at my attempt I check the neuropar. I was in a salary young 3.5. yabo ubona indlela uma nivalelwa imani ikhutshwa nje ngelo xesha haya.
Khayelitsha Prison has earned a notorious reputation for its brutal conditions. And for men like Dino, who have spent time there, they gain a level of respect on the streets.
Abanye baseHarare side B side C indawo ngendawo ubona. Hawo.
Bayele bona izinto ezingamavileyo ayidlalo. Yabo, iminyaka abanye yabo. So yeah, that is why soyika ngayikhatha yabo.
As the men take a break to plan their next move, they nervously keep an eye on the streets. Because just a few blocks away, the taxi bosses are beginning their day. They are people Dino and his crew are keen to avoid. Mr. Chogi and his right-hand man Tando run the branch from Site C and are in control of everything going on in this area.
Yeah, apha erenkini nxa siyibiza sithi i-crime office. Singabantu abanceda abahlali.
Over the last decade, as crime rates have soared and police resources dwindled, taxi associations across the townships stepped in to fill the void, dealing with everything from robberies and housing disputes to sexual violence and even murder. But their services don't come free. A resident from one of the township's most crime-ridden sections, Taiwan, seeks aid after falling victim to a brutal armed robbery.
Kukubonakalisa into yokubana sizogaya ipointo kuzothatha kwanto endlini. Yandothusa loo nto leyo azange ndiphinde ndikwazi nokulala. Kodwa ke sathi sasovuka kwethu siseshocked sahamba saya kwabatata bokuhlala sancedwa ngabo ke.
Having lived in Khayelitsha for over 20 years, Annalisa has witnessed significant changes in the township, sadly, for the worse, impacting people of all ages.
Number 1, kukurojwa eKhayelitsha. Number 2, nemoto ziyahijackwa eKhayelitsha. Yonke nje into akho nto ingenzekiyo apha eKhayelitsha. Siyareyishwa eKhayelitsha. Hayi ke i-rape inyukele phezulu akunamntana akunamntu untoni apha eKhayelitsha.
In the face of such relentless daily violence, desperation compels people like Annalisa to seek costly alternatives for justice. Her time with Mr. Chogi and Tando is cut short as the pair are tipped off that someone they've been looking for regarding a housing dispute has been spotted.
iKhayelitsha yonke inabo ngcefu kodwa ke kuba sineligama lokuba singootata baserenkini ooncefu bahloniphe kakhulu abadlaleli kwindawo edibene nathi loo ncefu aye angabi respect asube efika apha eKhayelitsha.
When they arrive, the woman is clearly not impressed with her unannounced visitors.
Andikhumbula mosne?
Yeah.
Ndingulaa tata wayefike apha. Xa sifike erenkini lamhla sathi xa sifika sifowunela laa fowuni satyelwa intlanga sabona uba noko ube busintlolo kaloku awukwazi usinceda ifowuni so sadana kakhulu mntase kaloku xa sizofuna ifowuni kwindawo esiyazi uba siyaxoxa ngaloo ndawo asicingelanga uba simele ukuntlolo thina uyageza ngoku kaloku xa ndilinyiswa zelityeni madlini
akukho mntu walapha kaloku anoti.
Hayi singazingenela xa ufuna ukuthetha kakuhle ndani wena ufuna ukuthetha kakuhle ungawukhangela indlu yakho ndiyothetha kakuhle kuyo.
Mna ndinadluli.
Hayi mani ukrwada mani mntana ndinomncinci gedi mani awuqala ube nemali mani ukwazi ukuthina nabantu.
Lo mqhuba indima.
As tensions begin to rise, Mr. Chogi's patience wears thin, risking a potential flare-up of tempers.
Manageza lo mntana
But tata wena umdala nguwo ofika abe rongo athethe rongo nguwo.
niyamhlukumeza lo mama wale ndlu ufuna uhlala endlini yakhe nilimali ukuhlala nimhlutha indlu yakhe nenza ibhizinisi kuyo.
But kaloku tata ngokuthetha nam.
Hayi mani ndwabile mani akho nto mani kuyiphendula bona nanku umntana esigesi lapha uyisela umntana umntana. Laa ntombazana yaphi?
The men decide not to use force this time, as other residents gather to watch and provoke them. As they drive away, they reflect on the new challenges they are now encountering.
Eziteki zonke ziyobisi zityiwa ngabantwana. Mandulo ebekakade amapharapara ebesidila nawo in these days amapharapara esidila nawo akhona nangamantombazana atyi drugs. So ubomi bunzima kakhulu ngoku because i-drugs ziwenze amaphalaphala amaninzi kwezilokishi zonke. So ii-cases zokuxuthwa kwabantu kweefowuni, ii-cases zokukhekezwa kwezindlu, ii-cases zee-TV, kokuthathwa kwee-TV zininzi ngoba amapharaphala maninzi nabantu abathengisa iziyobisi maninzi.
Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Monday, chairperson of Khayelitsha's Community Policing Forum, takes a much different approach to the law. Working hand in hand with the police and authorities, his organization aims to bring the community together to fight crime.
In one weekend in Khayelitsha, you see funerals almost everywhere. This cemetery on its own, this one is full. There's another one that side that also is full. And that should tell you that, like, there's a lot of funerals that are taking place and there's a lot of young people that are dying every day. Today, I'm getting someone that was killed in Harare. If I get that 3 people have died just before noon, like this morning, just before noon, what does that tell you? Then which means the day I hear that 6, 7 people have died, they've been gunned down. And when you start to profile, who are these people? Why are they dying? You like it or you don't like it. Khayelitsha, the extortion is at the center of everything. May it be drugs, may it be any other criminal activity, but it's all centered around extortion.
Extortion is the practice of obtaining something, usually money, through force or threats, and it is rampant in Khayelitsha. No one is spared the gang's reach, and the death toll serves as a warning to those who resist. And Monday has personally suffered losses at their hands.
I buried my nephew end of November. He was gunned down also in Makaya. He was with his friends, I think there were 3 of them. They were going to collect money from the Somalian shops. So if you look at the age of how these youngsters, my brother, my nephew, and others die, they die at a young age. What are they chasing? Means of survival. They want to earn a living. I love people of Khayelitsha with my whole life. And honestly speaking, if I were to be that guy who dies for the people of Khayelitsha so that the crime can stop, so that people can live in harmony, I'll sacrifice myself in a given time.
Monday's bravery serves as an inspiration to those in the community not willing to just sit by and watch. However, being vocal and speaking out opens oneself up to many dangers, and some aren't willing to take that risk. Just a few yards away, Mr. X, one of the extortionists Monday speaks of, prowls the streets, overseeing the businesses and territories under his control. High up in one of the most prolific and established extortion rackets, he has spent the majority of his life in gangs, breaking strict protocol to speak out anonymously. He shines a light on the extensive reach of his network.
uzovula igarage, uba uzovula i-B&B, uba uyathengisa naphi apho kungena khona imali fanele sikukhusele.
Extortion has ravaged Khayelitsha, stifling opportunities for progress and killing the township's economy. The extortionists primarily demand money for protection, targeting everyone from small businesses to major infrastructure projects. No one is spared. Those daring to defy Mr. X face fatal consequences. Mr. X commands a network of men and boys, some as young as 15. His recruits are carefully chosen, given a rare chance to earn in a land of scarce opportunities. Driven by hunger for respect and power, they vie to prove themselves.
The recruiter abo bakrele phengqondweni sibasondeze sibafundise umsebenzi. I recruit the strong and brave one. Funeka ube soldier. Yeah, izintwana zise fresh 15 to 25. Kule mizi kuhlutshwa kwayo kuyo itarget yam le ngoba ndiyazi abanothi hayi bayinid imali futhi ke ndiyababhatala.
The inner workings of the gangs remain top secret, with whispers of police corruption fueling fears that criminals have infiltrated law enforcement, gaining access to vital crime tactics. The assassination of police officers also serves as a stark reminder that anyone is fair game to the extortionists.
Sibenza nawo amapolisa nazo contacts zawo manifuna ukuhamba endleleni alenjonge babavaliphi na ndisebenza nawo la madoda buza umuntu ndingena nxulumelana naye ngena connection naye.
Looking out on his territory, Mr. X reflects on the factors he sees as contributing to the township's problems.
Indawo ndawo yohamba le kuba ihlala thina bantu abamnyama. Nezo budget speech ethethwa ngazo asizazi thina ngoba akukho uphuhliso apha eGaza. Siphila labo bantu abahluphekayo bahlala khona.
Hopelessness and desperation grip the community as Mr. X and his thugs tighten their hold. In such tough conditions, Dino and his right-hand man, Wise Man, get by the only way they know how.
Mna into endiqonda noba ndingayenza for ihustling yami yokusurvive abantwana ndiyanamnayo nokutya imali loo nto any kind of robbery, but not that any kind of robbery nje, but
Protecting their identities, a long-forgotten concern. Their desperation for drug money drives them.
yeah. Uyithathe phansi ishijela isukiwe isusile indawo iqolojonga suse nyhani uyamasotsha kodwa uyasebenza uyasebenza iyasebenza isebenza ngayo ngongomi olambona mama lwata ungozi obusijongene nabo kwezi zinto zibe sizenzayo thina sitsheba sirobha kunintsi kakhulu because at the same time uthi usenza laa nto abanye ba-nervous ba-under pressure uyabona and ibuye ixhomekeke ngoku on the sport club kule ndawo nizobe niyenza kuyo le ndawo uba indawo enjani environment and then kwi-position endawo nina. You understand? So ke ngoku ibuye ibe nee-consequences ezininzi ifumaniseke one of us uyabuya banjwe, one of us uyabuye afe, siyakwazi ubuya singaphelanga sona.
There's no sign of nerves as the men spot a potential target.
Yes, yeah. Uyabona izimbobo zinayo ne-watch lelo zingabi nazo ifowuni eziya wey. Yep.
Yenzeka la mita bona uba khona mita kwanza kucina evidence.
Yenza kuba nifuna ucina evidence.
Dino's gang is just one of the many terrorizing the township, presenting a daunting challenge for the police and authorities. Unfazed and resigned to the inevitability that this lifestyle will ultimately lead to their demise, their attitudes are sadly common among many young men in Khayelitsha. But there is hope. Nearby, in one of South Africa's oldest townships, Luelo begins his day. He knows firsthand the impact of gangsterism, with his brother repeatedly in and out of prison. Dedicated to educating and reshaping the minds of the next generation through his organization, Langa for Men.
Yintoni yakwenza ube yi-gangster? Yintoni yabangela uba uzibone uba ngoku nam I wanna be part of la gang leya.
Dibana nabantu abashaya i-drugs.
Yeah.
Abantu abashaya i-drugs. Uzodibana nabadala, udibana nabalingana nawe, udibana nabancinci basajoyinayo leyo.
Yeah.
So kwi-drugs awutshaye i-drug.
Uthi ezinye ii-decision ozithathayo uzithatha ungekho kwi-sober minds.
Ungekho kwi-sober minds. Uthatha i-drug. Yabo? Even ubulala umuntu. Ubulala umuntu. Uizi ubulala umuntu. Like zanga nambulala umuntu ndedwa. But netshomi zami gangster ezinye. Even lana ndisayicinga nangoku. Yabo? Ngizibuza uba why ngilapha, why nje. Ngaba ngulaa mntu. Kwenzeka ntoni? Because akekho yi-one. And akekho yi-one nombulalayo laa mntu, ingengowokuqala lo. Yabo? So awumazi uba ngubani ombulaleyo kuni. But ke nonke benikhona. So ngathi igazi lomntu linamandla. Yabo? Senokwenzeka lilo neli nivalele izipho ezininzi.
Luelo and his friend Sayabonga established Langa for Men in 2019 after recognizing that young boys and men like Letha needed guidance.
Thina silanga for men sinceda amakhwenkwe uyafumana nabantu abangamadoda kuze bangafikeleli kwela nqanaba wena wakafikelela kubo. So sinendlela ke esisebenza ngayo ukwenzela abantu bakwazi ukuthetha, bakwazi ukucebisana. Uyabo? So singathanda ukuba ngaba ezinto ozithethayo uzithethe nakwi-session so that nabantu bayazi uba ngaba you can still change noba ngaba kwenzeka ntoni ebomini bakho.
While the dangers facing young men in Khayelitsha are undeniable, gender-based violence is a huge problem facing many women in the township, with cases of rape and sexual assault occurring daily. One area notorious for such crimes is Taiwan. Determined to help, Monde has gone to meet some of the residents who want to work with the policing forums.
This area is dominated by GBV, gender-based violence. There's been a lot of deaths around this area of young teenage girls, that have been victims of GBV. We've buried in a space of in a space of 2 months actually. We buried around about seven teenage girls, and due to gender-based violence. Others were, killed by their own uncles, raped by strangers, by family members, Linjani?
Siyaphila khona unjani?
Saphila nathi apha sichutyini.
Asina zitrato, asina street light. Into enzekayo kuxhaphake kakhulu i-gender-based violence. Abantwana bayareyitshwa, then kungabikho follow up. Abantwana bethu bayahlukunyezwa, abasikhuselanga. Then sifuna i-neighborhood. Apha kule ndawo there's no neighborhood watch.
Okay.
Voicing the frustrations of the community at large. Tired of living in constant fear, Patricia leads Monde to meet fellow community leaders determined to end the reign of terror on their streets.
Ngadothukile mntasekhaya xolo uba singene kwakho sihamba nekhamera. Ngawutsho ke mhlawumbe xa sethe yakhona le neighborhood watch izaba luncedo kule community.
Izaba luncedo kakhulu ngoba kaloku apha kunabantu abangenayo mhlawumbi bazisa ifurniture okanye baze like kukho le sikhula sonke. Abantu baphethe iifowuni zabo abakwazi ucofa iifowuni zabo ngoba banaloyika uba kukho ii-gangsters ezininzi ezinotisa phana ezi fowuni. And nalapha apha ku-N2 mhlawumbi kukho imoto imile phaya bayaya abantwana bayothatha izinto, so izaba luncedo kakhulu. Naxa ungena i-ambulance mhlawumbi i-ambulance ngelaa xesha ifikileyo ihamba yodwa wekho amapolisa, izaba luncedo kakhulu.
Facing formidable challenges, Patricia and the community of Taiwan pray that Monde can help bring in some much-needed support. And someone who knows all too well of the damage and suffering gender-based violence can cause is Babalwa.
Ndandihlukumezwa ngumyeni endibetha ndenza yonke into etshitha, so mane okokoko ke senze loo violence endlini endibetha ndenza yonke into yami ndibheke epolice station. 2018 ngondaqomba amakhe man bake ndijoyine amapolisa ndabona kumnye sisuhlala kwaimnyiwe okuthiwa nguMadlamini ekwi-neighborhood watch. Ndathi uMadlamini ndiyayifuna ke le neighborhood watch ingathi kuthiwa iyanceda i-neighborhood watch kwinto ezine-violence phakathi ntoni. So alo sisima ndikhe ndijoyine nathi ne-neighborhood watch.
Finding relief in joining the neighborhood watch temporarily halted the violence at home. But her husband's return soon brought renewed misery.
So ngoku 20 lonyaka pheleyo waphinda wazokwenza i-violence kusixabana ntontoni. Ndasoke ke ngoku ndazovela ndibona ke ngumsitsha ke ngebusuku befuna unditshisa ke nalaa mntana apha phakathi endlini. Saphuma ngengubo nomntanam sozilahla apha phandle, savuka icango seliphelile, yonke into sekusitsha, safika sekusitsha kuqala iblaso. Ndihlukumezeke kakhulu, andifuna uxoka kakhulu emphefumlweni wam, andikho right. So that's why ihleli kum inditya, ndiyaya phakathi kwabantu berayithi xa ndihleli nabantu, then ebusuku andikwazi ukulala, ndiyacinga khe ndibe nazo neengcingo zoba mandizibulale.
Still battling mental and physical scars, Babalwa has witnessed firsthand the transformative impact community groups like the Neighborhood Watch can have. And there's one woman who has been leading the fight for decades. Mama Felica.
Right now. Yeah. Okay.
Having created one of the longest-running neighborhood watches in the township, helping to bridge the gap between the police and the community, the predominantly female group patrols some of the area's hotspots every morning and early evening. Combating crime wouldn't be possible without them.
And then we're going to the bridge, the place we are started when we patrol. It's very dangerous, that bridge.
Mna into endabangela uba ndijoyine kwi-neighborhood watch ndinabantwana abafunda ngapha kwesitishi ababerojwa each and every day. Wabuya ke ngomntana mendixelela uba ye mama kukho mama bapha asekho nto usirobhayo ngoku abanxibe into ezishayinayo. Luckily kanti kuzabakho imithingi yamapolisa engingqini. Ndaya xa ndifika phaa ndabuza uba aba mama bapha ebhulorhweni benza njani ze bebe phaa. Ndacacisela uba hayi umntu uyazivolontiya xa ebona uba yinto erayithi. Ndathi mna irayithi.
Uke wabethu 8 funeka uyazi uba usendlini awunabasestratweni ngoba ukhe wasestratweni ngala maxesha so udibana ke ngoku nengxaki phaa ngaphandle estratweni.
The women arrive at the bridge, well known in the community for its assaults and robberies, making their presence felt as they stand nearby observing. This is all they can do in the face of such danger, often patrolling without police, unpaid and unarmed.
Iminqono yethu besicela besinoyicela ku-government i-stipends awugqiba nezinto ayibona nje ma ndihamba ngezi-flops andikwazi uleqa mntu esoxutha ifowuni yomntu ndinxibe ezi-flops and uphela kwezi-flops andinayo enye i-option because andiphangeli. Siphuma kunetha asinazilamba zanxiba sinikwa nje only that nezikipa asinanto yothi into enothi isikhusele nesi-stipends because kaloku sikwi-risk enkulu. Owona msebenzi esiwenzayo mkhulu ngaphezu kwamapolisa ngoba amapolisa awangeni kwirhange.
I was robbed 9 times. 9. I was thinking maybe the 10th time I'm gonna die, but God loved me because He see what I do.
Brought together by the love of their community, the women share a fierce determination to create a safer environment for their children and the generations to come.
Sibathathu sikwazi uma ngosibathathu sikwazi ba because le nto siyenzayo siyayifila ngaphakathi kuthi because of sisebenzela ukuhlala sifuna siprotecta i-community yethu. Into emama ndijoyinile about wathi ukuthanda i-community yam, ukuthanda usebenzela ukuhlala kwam because xa usebenzela ukuhlala awuzijonganga nzuzo. Kwi-neighborhood watch uyavolontiya awuzanga msebenzini uzosebenzela ukuhlala.
While the women reflect on the positive impact they've had, Mama Filika worries for the future.
Ingomso laseKhayelitsha limfilipa because iKhayelitsha ayibheki phambili instead ngoku iyafa qha iKhayelitsha.
While divisions remain within the community and the police are stretched to their limits, it's left to groups like the taxi associations to fill the void. But not everyone agrees with some of their methods of dealing with justice. Careful not to reveal too much, Mr. Chogi and his peers show off a room rumored to be where individuals who refuse to comply have been held captive and subjected to beatings.
Xa umuntu engalandeli umthetho singabantu abaye bamcacisele umuntu kodwa ke ngasivamanga uba nelishwa lo muntu ongasiniki inhlonipho xa sisenza lo msebenzi sithetha nomuntu sinesidima kakhulu. Umuntu uba uzibizwe sithi uyazazibuze kubantu abafuna into erayithi sinabo ubuhabaxa xa umuntu engamameli ave nevoyisi lethu singakhange siphakamise ehlanze senze le nto siyifunayo.
Whether their claims are true is open to debate. Either way, it doesn't stop thousands of residents from seeking their help. The men head to a single mother, Bulelwa, who is worried her son has become involved with gangs and has become increasingly abusive at home.
Go.
Molweni. Uphula yona, uphula nefestiri. Awukuba ukuphula nayo. Betha nabantwana. Ubomi ka unathi bunjini. Hlehleli nje uyalwa phandle. Hlehleli nje uyalwa and mna ezibumzali wakhe ayandiyona. Yanithoka kayithanda.
Since ke ngoku izolo bekuziwe bekwaphindwa nayo into attitude nayo.
Izolo kuyothi uxwaka. Uyothi uxwaka izolo wahamba waphinda wabuya. Njengangoku bekwanokho ekhaya benokho endisalele ngoba esositaba ke baye bahamba ngo-1 ngathi mna answer phumulana wanokho akhakha ndimvulele kube ndisalele akakaphinda kuyo engayazi ke nobuye uyenza nala.
Cases like these are the very reason the Taxi Association initially began its work, supporting parents in enforcing discipline, particularly among their sons. As the men leave, they decide to take a look around the property, just as Bulelwa's son is returning home.
Yeah, mom. Yes, mom. I'm Keep it up.
What happens now depends on how willing Bulelwa's son is to cooperate with the taxi bosses back at the rank. As the week comes to a close, anticipation builds for Super Friday, the time when criminal activity peaks. Junkies looking for their weekend fix, and criminals and thugs taking advantage of more people around the township. To counter this, the police and community groups come together, asserting their presence to deter any wrongdoers. Today, the unit's brigadier joins to demonstrate added authority on the ground.
This is the band that is going to operate with us. We don't do this patrol alone. We do this patrol with subs. Super Fridays are just about CPF, community in blue, neighborhood watches, subs. We do it jointly. We don't necessarily disclose where we're going. We just right here, right now, decide which area we're targeting.
This is one of the challenges that we're facing in terms of the policing, is the environmental factors. We've got areas where it's difficult to patrol using the vehicles. We have to go on foot. Then that becomes a very big risk now to the safety of our members.
Long-standing tensions exist between local residents and Somali shop owners over business competition and community politics. The patrollers take this as an opportunity to ensure everything is in order.
Next week when I'm working day. Papers, Papa. Papers.
Where is your paper?
We check food. Where is expired food?
Mogadishu, you're coming from the war zone. Where's your AK-47?
I don't have anything.
I live there. You have AK-47.
I live there. I will show.
Why are you selling like that?
I don't sell like that.
What did you do for this meat?
Are you sure the Home Office can verify this?
Yeah, it's email only. You can't go there.
Let's make a deal. Next week when I'm working day shift, I'll come to you. We'll verify this. I'm gonna come with Home Affairs.
Okay.
The overpopulated township poses numerous challenges for the police. Despite their dedication, funding cuts and internal politics hamper their efforts.
We walk into the informal settlements, but we are scared, especially when it comes to dark, because not these people are not armed, but we value their contribution. Look now, I've got more than 40 people, I'm the only one armed. I'm also at risk But because of I know I've got the support. I've got the support from there's nothing that will happen.
The patrol encounters some men frustrated at the constant crime they see in their neighborhood. As night descends over Khayelitsha and arrests are made, criminals begin to lurk, waiting for their opportunities. No longer safe for the brigadier and the neighborhood watch to be out, they call it a day. Completing another patrol safely is always a blessing in this hostile environment. As the residents make their way home, walking in groups and taking taxis to ensure their safety, they've done all they can. Making the most of their recent success, a fruitful weekend has put Dino and his crew in a boastful mood. Despite the increased weekend police presence, they show no signs of slowing down. Well known in the community for all the wrong reasons, the men are avoided at all costs. Although portraying offense at how they are perceived, the men's ongoing actions demonstrate little genuine concern.
White men, Baba. I want to go to see. Nice. You have to go out and go to the food.
As the men enjoy their feast, uncertainty hangs over their futures. With the recent loss of a gang member in a shooting, the reality of an early death constantly looms. Despite struggling to leave this lifestyle behind, the men do hope for a better life.
Ispana okanye angaze ntoni lawo ikwenzeke into ebandileyo namhlanje xa ndivuka kusasa umntu walapha mhlawumbi igazi community oyi-1 ngasandibone mani sentsho nasemaphupheni avelelwe ngumntu njengam abe nolonyula nami semfethu no mani ikhona ithesho elivelayo mfowethu yakubamba masami sosithesha yabo senzo iminqweno like ibuye ibe khona ukuthi enhliziyweni zethu eziya izinto esizibawelayo nathi eza like ukutshintshe mani kule ipage ngongoku yabo ukuhambe enye ipage at least le ipage uyihambe kakhulu ehlobo uyama yebo uyama like at 365 days unyaka wonke usipane man ungabikho kweziweyi yabo.
Hoping to show young men alternative paths in life, Luello has organized a day trip for one of his groups.
Living in a township, we were disconnected from nature. That made our lives to be difficult. When a person is not connected to nature, you also lose the connection in controlling your emotions. When you're in control of your emotions, it will be easy for you to be vulnerable.
Luello has taken the boys on a day trip, believing in the therapeutic power of nature and a much-needed relief from the intense pressures of township life.
The theme for today, it is coming from a perspective where young boys, when they grow up, they don't have positive role models, and they tend to be gangsters and join gangsterism. We know that there's a stigma when a man open up about the abuses that are happening or whatever that a man is going through. But as Langa for Men, we create safe spaces for young boys and men to open up and talk about their feelings so that we can be able to be in control of our emotions. Today we are here to talk about what is affecting us in our community, gangsterism. We know that some of us are not gangsters, but it is also affecting us, or it might also affect us in the near future.
Key to Luelo's work is encouraging and teaching young men that expressing emotions and addressing them is not a sign of weakness. But this is especially challenging in an environment where hypermasculinity dominates.
Kanye ekuchazayo uba ngaba umzekelo ubomvu gamile uba onwabile namhlanje ungathi kubomvu okanye ungathi kupepule okanye ungathi kuyelo uyabo uchaze nendlela oziva ngayo.
Igama lami Siya, igama lami yala kanye ngifukani kwakini awukuba lapha igama lami ayabulela igama lami mhlanje benzisela nonwabile endikumhlophe ngaphandle.
Igama lami impilo wami fani yami ngiqinela ngihlakalanga ngimabile ngoba lapha thalaya enguni black one because I'm black.
We all know that gangsterism, do we all know uba iqala kanjani okanye ukhona umuntu omaziyo that ohlala close nawe who's a gangster and ngaba wena affecte kanjani okanye ngaba lo muntu
kanuzani ngabonani bakhe yayi ngekezi suwa sona njalo yabo qale kanjalo bakhe xelelani wezibhikitsanile bakhe yatsho ngamani ntontoni ntothi wena ntontoni yabo iqala kanjani gangsterism so endaphe okay neshomi zakho zikulunginelela yephesha
awubona omnye esenza into or mhlawumbi uwikho okanye uthini xa mhlawumbi nifile inonke omnye akugxeka athi asuka wena ntoni qala kanjani lana abeke influence ngene-wrong and end up usenza lana i-wrong just for uimpressa yena yabo uthi uzawuyithanda wena mara funa uimpressa itshomi zakho qala kanje
mhlawumbi ekubethwe itshomi yakho incedise yabo uyilwela impanyela mhlawumbi naye uzoza netshomi zakhe
ungayala pilisi yenza nto ngaphakathi kwezomsindo omngakanani xa ubona omnye umntu wachumisa ngento encinci uba nala msindo ulwe naye.
For the past 6 years, Luelo has dedicated his life to Langa for Men, and he is determined to further its growth by continuing to spread the word.
Even if the person sometimes you need to be taken out of your community for you to realize that your community is suffering. That's the reason we are here, connecting to nature, breathing this powerful air. Siphilise imiphefumulo yethu.
Educating and empowering young men to envision a different future has become Luelo's mission, supporting them in rediscovering the beauty of nature they've been deprived of, relegated to the outskirts of the city. But with serious violence continuing to be a daily reality for many, protecting the next generation is easier said than done. The allure of criminal lifestyles proves tempting as opportunities remain scarce, and the battle between those on either side of the law rages on. The name Khayelitsha means new home in the local Xhosa language, and for millions of people, that is exactly what they have found, despite the countless issues they face. Determined to break the cycle of brutality, inequality, and neglect, it's left to respected figures in the community like Luelo, Monde, and Mama Filika to stand as beacons of hope, proving that Khayelitsha can rise above its challenges.